Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. Alan, this is the update on the 57 Chevy. There's a lot to go through, and if I sound like Joe Biden where I misspeak or I can't remember what I'm talking about, it's just because there's so much going on in this thing that I didn't write anything down. I'm just going off the top of my head, so if I miss something or if I jump over something, I might have to come back and go through it again. Quick update, took the carburetors off, switching it over to fuel injection, went with a old Hillborn 4-port injection, converted it over to 4 injectors on the sides of each port, so there's only 4 of them, and they're 160 pound a piece. The first problem we had, went to go start it up, it had power to the fuel pump without it cranking. When it was cranking, it had no power. So in the meantime, we just jumped it so it had power to the fuel pump, fired the thing up, and the thing was idling extremely high, like 2200 RPMs. It wouldn't come down. And after finagling for about an hour or so, which was my son actually, the 2 of them, because I have no idea how to use a computer at this time, didn't make any headway. Just massive RPMs, can't control the throttle. It was extremely hard to open it, and once it opened, it wouldn't want to close, so the RPMs just would skyrocket. So scrubbed that day. So came back the next day, a couple of days later, thought I had the wiring system fixed, and sure enough, still had some wiring issues in the back. Still had very high idle. My son finagled the dead times and the pulse widths of the injectors. When you spend a lot of money on injectors like these, 4 injectors cost me $750, I think it was. They give you a data sheet with them. It tells you what the pulse widths are at a certain voltage, whatever the hell it is, and it gives you the dead time. So when you go into the computer, you put all these parameters in, and it's supposed to make it very easy to fine-tune your engine. So my son goes in, changes all these pulse widths and dead times, and gets the thing to finally idle down. And no, it's just not as simple. Turn the idle mixture screw or idle adjustment screw. The plates were shut all the way down. Got it down, and the problem was now it's running so damn rich you want to snap the connecting rods right out of the motor. So that's not right. So in the meantime, I got to fix the wiring going back to the fuel pump. So now I had to rip all the interior out of the car. I had to pull the front seat out, the back seat out, the side panel where the window is here, run a new power from the fuse box, make sure it's power keyed on, make sure it's powered as you're cranking it, run a new wire all the way back to the trunk, and sure enough, no, I got wire loom, so you got to stuff all this stuff through the wire loom. What a real big pain in the ass. So finally get all the wiring fixed in the back for the fuel pump, the relays. It turns on, when you first turn the key on, it will pump. It primes the system for, I think it's like 3 seconds. The pump comes on, shuts off. You crank it, it re-energizes the pump. Got all that straightened out. Son comes back over again. We're back in it, pulling all that fuel back out of it so it's not snapping the rods out of the motor. And then the problem was you couldn't get the thing to run right. If you did, you whacked the throttle one time, it's all gone again. It's just not even on, not even in the parameters where you actually put it. It doesn't run for crap. At this point, the throttle is still extremely hard. And what happens is if you rev it up to like about 3 grand and you let your foot off lightly on the throttle, it just stays there. So back to the drawing board again, start looking at stuff, and I'm back in the fuel pump area again, I've got a test light on, and for the negative side of the computer, the negative side of the computer runs just about everything. Everything has power going to it, like your ejectors actually have power going to them. TPS has power going to it. All the other sensors have power going to it, and what happens is the computer actually sends grounds to actually energize different things. So everything runs off of grounds. So I'm looking in the back over here, and the fuel pump relay is actually running off of ground. When the fuel pump gets energized, it runs a ground. So it runs a ground, but all of a sudden I notice it pops in. It's got voltage in the ground system. So now I got something back feeding into the ground side of the computer. So that's affecting everything that's going on. So long story short, I trace it all the way down, and I finally figured out where the power source was coming from. I got a shift light that I use for my water meth system. I got a power going to the switch, and again, the negative turns it on. The negative, so when my water meth turns on, the first hit, because I got 3 stages of water meth in this thing, when the first stage comes on, it turns the shift light on, so I know the system's working. And then I got gauges out in the front here, so I can actually physically see that there's actually pressure on this thing. Because if those nozzles aren't working, this thing is going to have a meltdown where probably in 300 feet the motor will be freaking destroyed. So it's very critical that this motor actually has the water meth spraying in it, so it's the most important thing into this motor. So I narrow it down. For some reason, the power going into that shift light is going right through the shift light when it's not being used, because there's always power going to it, and it feeds the back feed through the ground system back into the computer. So now everything, the injectors are getting false readings, temperature sensors everything's getting false readings because it's got negative going into the ground side. So rip all that apart, fix that, change all that over. Now I go back in, I put all the parameters in that I got from my injector sheet. I put them in, fire the thing up, and I still have the problem with the high idle thing. When you rev it up and bring it down, it doesn't come down. But now I can't get enough fuel into the system. I'm working on the VE table. I'm trying to put fuel into it. I'm putting fuel in it. The numbers are just ridiculous numbers I'm putting into this thing, and it's just not richening it up enough, and it leans out, backfires through the whole fucking fuel injection system. So I bring the computer to my laptop in the house, and I'm frustrated. I'm almost ready to put the carburetors back on. And I'm looking through the data sheet again, and when I'm looking at it, I've put the decimal points in the wrong spots on the dead times. For instance, it's supposed to be 0.750, 0.750. I got 0.0750, so it's 600 and it's just way off. It's ridiculous. So I put all the right dead times in it, put the stuff in it. I come back out, and I don't know, a couple of days later, fire the thing up. It's running. It's a little better. I've got a bunch of fuel in the VE table. It's just not right. It just isn't right. So I go in, I screw up. A couple of days, I come back out. I look at my laptop again, and it didn't save all the parameters I put in. So I reloaded, put them in, burn them in, fire the thing up, and same crap, throttle's still way up. So come back out, I gotta do something with the throttle, because you can't drive the car, you're gonna kill yourself in the car. So I had the mechanical linkage on it. Let me show you what all happened here. Before I had all the mechanical linkage on it, and it would come up, and I just had one going into the back. Well, this here, right here, is the arm that was supplied with this unit. Well, I took that off. I had a buddy of mine start off me with an arm like this, and this is what the arms look like now. This is the arm here. So it's double the length of that, so it has a better geometry of pulling it. I swapped it all over to one cable, and this system here, whoever remodified this thing when they changed it over from mechanical injection to fuel injection, electronic, they had a TPS mounted on the very front right here, and the shaft comes all the way through. Well, whatever material they have for a shaft in this thing, I'm watching this thing when I'm opening up the throttles and I'm looking down at the butterflies. I can see like the rear two opening, this one's following behind, and this one's just about moving. So the shaft is twisting. So when you rev it up and you let it down, the spring pressure's back here, snaps these closed. This one's staying open, this one's staying open a lot, which is keeping the TPS open, saying, hey, keep the injectors firing because TPS is on. So I said, all right, can't change the shaft. I probably could, but right now, so what I decided to do, I split it up to two cables. I made all these brackets. I made this bracket, I made this bracket, that bracket. I made all those brackets, and I used this from the mechanical linkage. I got one pulling, and when this thing pulls, it pulls down the bottom, pulls the front back one, this one pulls the front one. So now it's got double cables, so that shaft can't twist. It's pulling both cables at the same time. I made a bracket over here to mount a TPS switch on it. Made a bracket here for holding the springs. There's all the injectors. I got 2 springs in the back, 2 springs in the front. Much better. Throttle's starting to come around. It's still way too much. I got a vacuum port right here. I got the gauge taped to the windshield so I can see how many inches of vacuum the supercharger is pulling right underneath the supercharger, underneath the injection, because it still seems like it wants to pull the throttle closed. So go on a computer, take some timing out of it so I can actually open up the throttle shafts to let some more air in. So kill power on that a little bit, open those up. So it was getting better but not great. These are 3-inch holes, there's 4 of them. So that's a lot of air going through. So I had a buddy make me a plate to block off one of the back ones. I had to make me another plate, and these 3-inch holes now are 2¼ inch holes. And so that gives you what, 6 3/4 of a hole, a big hole like that to open up. The way I'm thinking of it, all these LS guys, the biggest throttle body, I think they actually use like 4¼ Well, I get this, so this thing here will have like 6-inch. So I think it definitely will still have enough airflow. Throttle actually works great. You can rev it up, 3 grand, 4 grand, let off nice and slow. It follows your foot right back down to idle. The VE table is way off. I don't have the accelerator enrichment actually turned down right now. I don't have, which is this right here, which will be going to my idle air control valve. I'm just trying to get a base setting for the thing to run at the moment. So I'm just using the idle stops in the front and rear for my idle adjustments. With this coronavirus thing going on, everybody's home around here, and this thing's loud as hell. So I gotta load it up on the trailer and bring it over to my buddy's shop so I can terrorize all his neighbors instead. And I need a day to go over there just to try and work on the VE table to get the thing to actually idle pretty decent. Idle's pretty good, but you get to idle a little bit better. And get the VE table right enough so I can actually start driving it, so I can actually turn on the self-learning so I can get the drivability in. Once I get the drivability in, then I'll bring it to the dyno machine and get the horsepower in. Honestly, I don't know if it's going to make any more power than what it did before. It's probably going to start off making less power, I would assume, until I get this thing actually really worked in. But at this point, if I decide to go with small holes here for now, just to get me a bass tune so it runs good. Once I get it running good with this setup, I have a lot more adjustability. I can take that top plate off. I'll be back to big 3-inch holes on 3 of them, and then I always can go back to a 4th one if it's needed, once I get the thing to actually run on this here first. And if it runs on this here first and it makes the same amount of power, I'm just going to leave it, and because the car is plenty fast as it is. The way it was, it made 720 at the rear wheels. No, it's got a Dana 60 in it, it's got a 4L80E in it, so it loses about 25% through the drivetrain. So realistic thing's probably got a little over 900 at the crank. So it's plenty fast. It runs 980s. I usually got to slow it down because they'll throw me off the track, but I'm happy with that. As long as it cruises nice down the street, I'll be extremely happy. The car is extremely dirty from sitting in the garage. I got the seats back in it. I got the paperwork on the dash over there, but it's so it's coming along. It's been a long road, very frustrating. These air cleaners or these scoops were never designed for an air cleaner. I made this bracket up. I'm going to paint this black so you can't actually see it in there. That's one of the new style filters that newer cars take. But so that's it. That's you're caught up to speed. It took about 4 months to get to where it is right now, but at the time I was real busy with work, so I didn't have a ton of time in here. But there's believe me, there's a shitload of time into it. But so that's it for now, and I hope all you guys are doing well. I hope this doesn't take a life of anybody that you know, and we'll see you all at the track. And remember, burning rubber keeps you young. And once I get this baby going, believe you me, these things are bald already, but they're going to be balder even more once I get this thing running. It's going to get a beating, let me tell you. So, see you all later. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button. Appreciate it.